we'll come on in here and sit down and on in and just going in and shut this door and then I come back out and get my can. Over on that side of the road. When you think about changes in the world that we live in, I mean, and I know we can talk about that changes, but what do you see as changes? What things stand out to you as changes in the world that we live in? I
think the world we live in today, the things that was normally done in the darkness is being brought out to light. Mm-hmm. Things that were normally hidden is now being celebrated in a lot of ways, and got it to the point to where, personally, I just want to stand back and get away from it, right. And have no communion with the world. And there's a lot of things going on in the world today, but there's always hope.
Yes, sir.
There's always possibilities for better, and the ones who, the quiet minority or quiet majority, would just stand up and say different. The ones who's been behind the scenes and it's actually really the backbone, controlling everything. If they would just stand up and say, hey, this we want truth, we want everything to do right.
Well, and I think too that we, when we talk about our life and talk about changes, we know bad now so quickly. Things that are happening in the world, we see the bad stuff. And I'm like you, this has always been there. Okay, I mean, can you imagine how cruel the world has been?
Right.
I mean, when we think about the Old West, or we think about all these things out there, man. I mean, there's been child molesting, there's been rape, murder, killing.
Forever.
This has always been there.
Always been wars and rumors of wars.
If we look back on this thing, it's always. But what it is now is we know about it within moments.
There's always been earthquakes in diverse places. There's always been this going on.
Yes, sir.
It's just an average, ordinary day, and that's when God can come back. It's when the return of the Lord can be is an average, ordinary day.
Yeah.
Just nothing no different. And it's always been there.
Yes, sir.
But now you can just pick up your phone and get instant gratification of knowledge right then and there. It's right there looking at you. Anything, any information you want to know. Somebody questioned today, what's the best study Bible to get? And I was like, an iPhone.
Yeah.
Whatever your number.
Yeah,
and anything you want is right there. You can Google it. You can go through Yahoo. Any kind of search engine you want and get every interpretation of the Bible that's been for the last 2,000 years. And you can study and talk to God about it and then come to the understanding that the Holy Ghost will give you on that.
Yeah.
Everything is so different today. You can see, no doubt, 200 years ago, if there was a shooting in California, you might not hear about it for a month.
Right.
Or several weeks anyway. And now you can watch it happen live right in front of you.
And I believe that's the speed of this thing. And this knowledge is transfer, and it's not even transfer of knowledge; it's a transfer of information so quickly that we get it now, and that has been the big change. I really believe that has been,
And information technology has become global. Supplies have become global. And being a history buff, the reason that Hitler, Napoleon even failed in Russia is they advanced beyond their communication. They advanced beyond their supplies. And they kind of left themselves out there on an island, and when it got cold and snowy, they couldn't get in there and resupply their troops or anything, and it was left out there. The way today is everything is instant.
Yeah.
When you go to McDonald's, if you have to wait over a couple of minutes, if you pull up that window and they say drive ahead, you're mad.
It's supposed to be 60 seconds, no more. Really, no, your drive-through time should be 30 seconds in that drive-through. And now I use my app, and my order's waiting on me. You know what I mean? And it's, but my grandson said something a while back. He said, I'm not watching anything short anymore. I'm not watching anything on my phone or anything that's short. He said, because studies have showed it decreases your attention span.
Yeah.
He said, I'm not watching a program that isn't at least 30 minutes long or isn't this long. He said, I'm not going to watch anything or look at anything that is, because what happened, and I think about how quickly our attention span seems to go now.
Yeah, we binge watch series. I'm going to watch 10 episodes in a day or something.
Yeah, right.
And if it's a new series, back when we was younger, something came out on Friday night, you had to wait till the next Friday to find out if J.R. done it or not.
Exactly, yeah.
Or who shot J.R. or whatever.
Yeah.
And now, if it's a show now, if I had to wait the next Friday, I done forgot about it.
Right.
I'm watching something else, So we watched those.
Yeah.
We binge watched those series, and
I've gotten now to where I don't want to watch anything I haven't already watched.
Yeah.
Okay. I mean, on TV, I haven't watched. I don't want to watch. All right, well, let's deal with this. Okay, let's talk about something that's important too. Let's talk about money for a second. I know we touched on it some earlier on, but when we talk about money, and you could give advice to people, just to people out there in their life, because you have been successful, and you do live in your home, and I feel confident you pay your power bill. And you can put gas, you're living okay.
Yeah.
But there's a reason why. Now, here's the thing I know you can say. We can say, well, yeah, I pay my tithes and I give an offering. I understand all that. But there's principles that you have applied to your life financially that caused you to be able to live.
Yeah, I've done finance for 25 years. And I found out one of the craziest statements you'll hear from a customer is when you give them a payment, I'll try a few.
Right.
I'll try that.
Right.
Or I think I can do that. And one of the most successful things I ever heard from somebody is they showed up and said, I can do this amount a month, and that's where my payments need to be. Well, why? Because I've been practicing.
Mm-hmm.
For the last year, I have paid that payment to a bank account. I know I can make that payment, and I'm going to take the amount that I paid for the last year in that bank account, and I'm going to apply that to my down payment.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, wow, that is so impressive
Man,
to be able to do that.
I told my kids, I said, listen, I've told him the same. I said, listen, anything you want to buy like that, I don't care if it's a Mercedes or a 72 Ford. I said, if you, for 6 months, see what that's going to cost you. Because there'll always be another vehicle. I said, but take that money and see if it's worth putting it back. And then at the end, you'll have that down payment. If you want it, or you can decide, hey, man, it's too hard. I just can't do it. But so when you look at your life, what are you saying that principle is that you've applied to your life?
And so many people do things off of emotion, and I try not to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I've learned my lessons.
Yeah.
I went through hard times. I went through bad times, and I've tried to learn my best to learn my lessons. And I decided I don't need everything. I don't need everything.
That's a big
and before there was an iPhone, I didn't need an iPhone.
Right.
As soon as they came out with one, I just had to have that iPhone.
Right.
And that iPhone 6 was great.
Right.
But guess what?
Had
My buddy down the road got a 7, man. That 7 does something different. I don't know what it is, but I got to have it.
Right.
We try to get to the point to where we just don't have to have it.
Mm-hmm.
Try to be satisfied with whatever state that you're in. Try to never live beyond your means, and just be relaxed and like you said, 6 months from now, you might not want that anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And how many times have you had buyer's remorse that you bought something you're like, man, I don't know why I'd done that for.
Yeah.
It felt right at the time.
Right.
But as soon as I slept on it, overnight or even a day or two,
yeah,
it didn't seem as important anymore.
Yeah.
I mean, how many things have you got that, my kids have had toys. They never took out the box.
Yeah, absolutely.
They got so much for Christmas.
Yeah.
We truly live in a land flowing with milk and honey. I mean, it's abundance everywhere.
Right. Yeah, my daughter's selling her house, and she's going through her house now, and there's stuff, and she's not lived there for a couple of years, but she's going through, there's so much stuff there that she finds that she had, or that she's seen, or the stuff that we got, and things that I paid for, and she paid for, and things that we got that we think, now it's just, if you could get a hold of that, like you said, and begin to say, hold on just a second. And if a person can do that at a young age, and really say, listen, I'm going to discipline myself.
Yeah.
I mean, how much more we could do.
Oh, it's amazing.
And why? And then we say, why budget? Or why have that? Because you trade your time for money and your money for stuff. That's the simple principle of life. Your time you trade for money, your money you trade for stuff. So, but you trade for stuff in the end. Now listen, and I know you sell cars, but a car is only good for a man that sells it.
Right.
Okay. When you get a car, when an average Joe goes out here and buys him a car, we know what happens to it. Okay, it doesn't get worth more. Now people think it's worth more when they come back in and trade it in. If they gave $30,000 for it, they feel like it still ought to be worth $30,000.
Right.
I mean, that's a common thing, all right. But when you look at things in life, so many people won't drive what they got. And I know I've done that. My cousin, we were sharing the other day about that. I mean, I used to be awful about that. Okay.
Right.
I mean, I trade. But now, you know, I'm 65, soon be 66. I've got now to where when I'm looking at that truck out there, I'm thinking it's got 120,000 or 30,000, but it runs good. There's no problem. Got new tires, new battery. You know what I mean? And I look at Janice's car, 130,000. I think there's nothing wrong. So I'm going to drive them. You know, they're paid for, but if you can look at yourself and say, I'm going to hold on to this vehicle, or I'm going to do this. And
you look at the people who do it. You look at hairstylists, they got the weirdest looking hair sometimes.
Right.
You look at a body shop or a mechanic, he's driving an old beat up Chevy truck down the road.
Right.
You look at a car salesman, he's driving a car until the wheels fall off.
Right.
And that's the way we do. We just keep on driving until the wheels fall off of it.
Well, he knows, you know that you know what it's worth. And to sell it is worth something, okay? I mean, I know that's good, and you have to have it, man. You know, I've said selling tires and selling cars, people are going to buy cars.
Right. If you sell something that's worth exactly what somebody's willing to pay for it.
Right. Yeah.
You know, I paid $30,000. I want $30,000 back. You know, it's worth what somebody else is willing to pay you.
Right.
For it.
Right.
You know what the definition of a good deal is, don't you?
What is it?
State of mind.
Huh. Yeah.
If you think it's a good deal, it's a good deal. No matter what you pay for something.
Right.
Whether if I sold you something and I lost $10,000 on it, and you was convinced in your mind that it was a bad deal, then it's going to be a bad deal.
Right. Makes sense, doesn't it? It really does when you think about it. Man, I think about that stuff a lot, and I don't know. I think about in people because we can look at that in life and be careful what we spend. And you know, I look at stuff, and I've shared this with people before. I'd love to have me a Chevrolet Spark. I loved it. I had one of them. Okay, but the transmissions don't last long. That old CVC transmission, about 80,000 miles.
Right.
But I loved it. But I've looked for me another one because that Chevrolet don't make them anymore for a reason, probably because they fall apart. But I'm going to go with the standard shift next time I get one. And I told Janice, I found them everywhere, okay? And I look at it, but I think about that $200 payment, okay? And I saw Janice, I said, you know, we could buy 2 tanks of fuel, and that'd put me to Myrtle Beach and back. And I could stay down there, and I get to think about stuff I could do with that $200.
Less insurance.
And I think, well, yeah, I don't have the insurance, I don't have the tags and all that stuff. And I think about that sometimes. And so I fight the urge like that cinnamon raisin biscuit, same way I do with getting that car. I mean, I don't do as good with the cinnamon raisin, but I think about that a lot. Man. But if we could learn to control that, we could learn to handle that, how much better off we'd be.
And when you get older, you get wiser. I remember I started out in coal mining. I worked my 8 hours, and I wanted to go home because I was tired. If I'd worked more than 8 hours, I was getting time and a half. But I didn't want that. I didn't need that because I was living like the old guy said. Why do you just work 4 days a week? He said, because I can't make it on 3. You know, and I can make it on those 40 hours a week, and that's all I wanted.
Yeah.
I go off and start selling cars. I'm not getting paid for overtime, but I'm working 12 hours a day.
Right.
I'm coming in at 8 o'clock. I'm leaving at 8 o'clock that night.
Right.
Every single day, and loving it.
Yeah.
And then I got to thinking, you know, these extra 4 hours I'm putting in, that could have been overtime. You know how much more money I would have been making on that overtime?
Exactly.
But when you get older, you start seeing things differently. I went probably 5 years without taking a day off or a vacation, and missed a lot. A whole lot.
Yes.
With my children and different things. And
it wasn't good.
No.
It wasn't good at all to do that. You know what I mean? And if you had it to do over, I'd say you wouldn't do it. I'd say, I don't know. But I mean, you know, you miss a lot. And we think and this is in the end, people spend what they make in most cases. Okay. If they make another $200 a week or something, they'll spend another $200 a week. And you only got so much time, man. I was thinking the other day, and I figured it up, and I shared with somebody at 65. If I make it to 80, that's going to be a pretty good whirl. If I make it to 80, no better than I am. I had like 5,472 days left. When you start putting your life into days instead of thinking years, this is how many days I got. It'll make you treat your days different.
They pass by so quickly.
And you'll say, "How I want to treat my day." Well, you get old, winter and summer and fall. These things move faster. It seems like.
If you think every morning when you're brushing your teeth, I'm brushing my teeth this way. The next morning, doing it again, you'll start adding up how fast that's going by. And it passes by so quickly without you even knowing it.
Yeah.
I remember being in my 40s thinking, well, I'll make it to 50. Well, I'll make it to 52. Then I got there, and then I'm 62, and I'm like, wow.